October 14th, 1995. Abbotsford, British Columbia. 5:45 a.m. 16-year-old Misty Cockrell stumbles into an emergency room. She is badly beaten and barely conscious.
She was delirious. Eventually, we discovered that she had 7 pieces of her skull embedded in her brain. She kept saying her friend Tanya was left behind.
Police discover Tanya Smith 20 miles away at a popular fishing spot. Her clothes are spread across the bushes. Her body is found floating by the riverbank. Sergeant Bill Emery is the lead investigator on the case.
Usually, scenes of crime are taken to the point where they try to cover up every piece of evidence that they leave behind. This was not the case here. This person was not trying to cover up anything.
None of the evidence left behind points to a potential suspect. But before long, the killer announces himself to police.
We really didn't know what we had until we received the first phone call.
Within days of the attack, 911 operators receive a call from a man with surprisingly detailed information about the crime scene. He claims that he is the killer.
We knew that we had a very serious offender on our hands that was not afraid to contact police, to brag that he was a killer, and the fact that he enjoyed it was something that we were not prepared for.
The call is traced to a phone booth. Police rush to the scene, anxious to find any leads. Instead, they receive another call. This time he asks, "Do you think I'm stupid enough to leave fingerprints behind?"
And that just showed that this person is calculating, that he knows what he's doing, that he is, like the arsonist, willing to light the fire and stand back and watch. But even worse, he's a killer.
Hours later, police receive another call.
I'm the one. You're giving you the chance to try and find me. I'll be cruising around looking for someone else.
And this was the telephone call that really put fear into our hearts, because he stated that he was out driving around looking for someone else.
A race against time has begun.
Not only were you afraid that you were going to get another victim, he was telling you were going to get another victim. So it was like, you really have to hurry up and get this guy, because he's threatening to kill again, and he's just playing you.
Emery's team investigates thousands of tips, but have no solid leads. Many in town panic, fearing the man the press has dubbed the Abbey Killer.
The clock was ticking, and each day we just thank God that we didn't have another victim yet.
4 months after the attack, an anonymous call is made to a local radio station.
Each call, you could tell that he was becoming more and more excited about the game. You could tell in his voice that he didn't believe that we were onto him at all. And he was right.
The caller demands they look in the parking lot. There, they find the defaced headstone of Tanya Smith, the killer's first victim, tossed on the roof of a vehicle.
Well, in my 32 years, I have never heard of anything that even compares to that. And all he cares about is recognition. He's either going to get it by phoning you or by doing something totally bizarre.
On the headstone are scribbled more threats. She's not the first, and she won't be the last.
You start second-guessing yourself. You start second-guessing everything. And you're wondering if he's watching you, or if he's watching your family, or if he's out driving around looking for another victim like he says.
A few days later, the killer announces himself to the public again. A package containing a note wrapped around a wrench crashes through the front window of an Abbotsford home. The note reads, "Hello, it's me. I'm bad and will not be caught." From the Abbey Killer. Desperate for leads, Emery and his team of investigators next turn to the public for assistance.
We received a telephone call from a woman that stated that she believed the voice was that of her son.
(1995), Abbotsford, British Columbia. Many in town are terrified when a killer strikes on the banks of the Vedder River. The police are taunted by a series of phone calls from a man claiming to be the murderer, threatening to kill again. Sergeant Bill Emery tries to capture this killer before it's too late. With the clock ticking, the Abbotsford police turn to the killer's own voice to help find him.
The voice you are about to hear is the voice of the man who murdered Tanya Smith and attempted to murder Misty Cockrell.
Beside a walkway, it's behind trees.
Okay, sir, where are you getting this from?
I'm the killer.
By the release of this tape, our investigators are confident that a member of the general public will recognize the voice and share that information with the police.
We received a telephone call from a woman that stated that she believed the voice was that of her son. She stated that his name was Terry Grant Michael Driver.
A 30-year-old local print setter, Terry Driver seems an unlikely suspect. Married with 2 kids, he has no criminal record. To examine whether Driver fits the profile of an attention-seeking murderer, Dr. Stone explores his history.
At first glance, many attention seekers appear to lead normal lives. Like all of us, they desire recognition and praise. But something in these murderers' isolated backgrounds pushes them toward violence.
January 1965. Terry Driver is born in rural British Columbia. By age 6, he displays such aggressive behavior that his parents are unable to cope. They send him away to a social services school. For 6 years, he remains alone at the school while his younger siblings live with their parents. At age 12, Driver returns home. He lives in the shadow of his father, a highly decorated law enforcement official. Driver attempts to join the police force after high school, but is rejected. Still wanting to feel important, he begins his own patrol of the neighborhood, listening to a police radio and calling in tips about petty thefts. Over many years, he makes hundreds of calls to the police hotline.
For Driver, the police took on for him the meaning of parents. Getting the attention of a police officer, even for trivial reasons, may have satisfied a deep and powerful need. As this need grew over time, Driver turned to more shocking acts of evil to receive the attention he craved.
In October 1997, Terry Driver is convicted of the murder of Tanya Smith and the rape and assault on Misty Cockrell. He is sentenced to life in prison.
Terry Driver's evil appears twofold. He wasn't satisfied simply to terrorize Abbotsford. He seems to feel superior to authorities. This arrogance is evident in his ongoing taunts, the desecration of Tanya Smith's headstone, and most of all, in the attack on Misty Cockrell and Tanya Smith. Although we only killed 1 victim, I put him at level 16 on my scale, the place reserved for self-centered psychopaths who commit multiple vicious acts.
With their taunts and threats, Terry Driver and David Berkowitz showed a callous disregard for their victims. What